Chapter 1. The Unexpected Encounter. Lila Turner had always been different from the other children. While the other kids in her class played with their toys, ran around in the schoolyard, or dreamed of becoming astronauts or doctors, Lila sat quietly with a far-off look in her eyes, gazing out of the windows of her school or her room. But she didn't look at the world outside the same way as most. Where others saw blue skies, clouds, and the familiar shapes of trees and houses, Lila saw stars, distant galaxies, and planets that no one else could even begin to imagine. She dreamt of places far beyond Earth, of worlds where strange creatures roamed and ancient technologies thrived. And the most fantastic thing of all was that, deep down, she knew that one day she would be a part of it all. Her mother, Dr. Emma Turner, was an astrobiologist, a scientist who studied the life forms of other planets and had taken her to space with her for what would be the most life-changing journey Lila could have ever imagined. Lila had always admired her mother's brilliance and strength, but now she was beginning to understand the true extent of it. They were aboard the starcruiser Perseverance, a ship that had been designed to explore the uncharted regions of space, to communicate with alien species, and to gather information that would push humanity's understanding of the cosmos further than it had ever gone before. The ship was immense, filled with state-of-the-art technology, and, for Lila, it felt like a dream come true. At first, the idea of living among the stars, away from Earth and everything familiar, had been a strange concept to wrap her head around. She was only 9, after all, and the idea of leaving behind her friends, her old life, and everything she knew for something so unknown had been a little overwhelming. But with her mother by her side, and the promise of grand adventures ahead, Lila's anxiety had faded into excitement. Space, to her, had always been a place of wonder, a place where mysteries could be unlocked and secrets could be discovered. And now, as the Perseverance sailed through the black void of space, Lila was living her dream, even if she had yet to fully realize just how extraordinary the adventure would turn out to be. As she wandered through the halls of the starcruiser, Lila marveled at the beauty of it all: the high-tech displays, the holographic images of far-off planets, the shimmering walls that seemed to glow faintly in the low light of the ship. It felt as though she were walking through a futuristic city, a world that was made for people like her, people who didn't just dream of space, but lived it every day. Her mother was always busy, her work demanding and urgent, so Lila often found herself exploring on her own, watching the crew as they worked, sometimes chatting with the other children aboard the ship, or simply gazing out the windows at the incredible sights of space. Her favorite part, however, was when her mother would take her down to the observation deck, a large room at the back of the ship with panoramic windows that offered an unobstructed view of the stars. It was there that Lila felt most at peace, the vastness of the universe stretching out before her like a vast, beautiful canvas. It was in that room that her imagination would run wild, dreaming up fantastical creatures, distant civilizations, and alien landscapes. One particular evening, as Lila sat in the observation deck alone, staring at a distant cluster of stars, her attention was drawn to something strange. At first, she thought it was just a reflection, something caused by the light bouncing off the windows. But as she focused, the shape became clearer: a massive, shadowy form moving against the backdrop of the stars. It was too large, too detailed to be a reflection. It was an object, something out there, moving through space. She blinked, rubbed her eyes, and looked again. The shape was still there, gliding silently through the void. Lila's heart skipped a beat. Was it a ship? A space station? A satellite? She couldn't tell from the distance, but whatever it wasn't just floating aimlessly, it was moving with purpose, heading straight toward the Perseverance. Panic gripped Lila's chest, and she immediately jumped up from her seat and sprinted to the nearest communication terminal. She was still a child, too young to understand the intricacies of intergalactic politics or warfare, but she knew one thing for certain: this was no ordinary sighting. She had to tell someone immediately. After a few moments of frantic button pressing and nervous glances back at the mysterious object outside, Lila managed to connect with the ship's communications officer, Lieutenant Harris. The officer's face appeared on the screen, his calm expression betraying none of the urgency Lila felt. "Lieutenant Harris," she called out, breathless. "There's something out there. A ship or something big, dark, moving fast toward us." The officer's brow furrowed. "What's your location, Miss Turner?" "I'm in the observation deck. You've got to look." It's out there. Lieutenant Harris glanced at the terminal briefly, then nodded in acknowledgement. We'll send someone to check, Miss Turner. Stay where you are. Lila stood frozen in place as she waited for the officer to follow through, her heart hammering in her chest. The shape was still out there, drifting silently, growing larger by the second. What was it? Who were they? Were they friendly? Suddenly, a flash of light brilliant and blinding lit up the sky, and Lila gasped in surprise as a small, sleek, silver craft emerged from the darkness. It was unlike anything she had ever seen before. The shape was smooth, almost organic in design, as if it had been crafted by the hands of a species far more advanced than humans. It moved with grace, almost as if it were alive. The object was coming closer now, and Lila's nerves began to fray. She could see it clearly now, a ship, or perhaps not a ship at all. Her eyes widened in disbelief as the craft slowed, coming to a stop just outside the window. The ship hovered silently, its surface glowing faintly as if powered by some unknown force. But what caught Lila's attention most of all was what appeared in the shadowed interior of the craft. A creature. A dragon. It wasn't like the dragons from the fairy tales she had heard as a child, but it certainly resembled one. It was massive, towering over the cockpit of the ship, its wings folded back and its golden eyes glowing in the low light. The creature's body was covered in smooth, dark scales that shimmered like polished obsidian, and its long, slender neck extended from its body like the most powerful of predators. It turned its head slowly, and Lila's breath caught in her throat as its gaze met hers, locking eyes with her across the great divide of space. The dragon's mouth opened slightly, and Lila could almost hear the faint rumble of its voice in her mind. Was it speaking to her? Was it trying to communicate? Her heart raced, but she couldn't look away. Mom, Lila whispered under her breath, reaching into her pocket for something that she always carried with her. As she pulled out a small, slightly crumpled wallet, she realized what she was holding on to, a picture of her mother and herself from a year ago, taken before their journey into space. She had taken it from their home on Earth and tucked it into her wallet for comfort. Lila hesitated for only a moment before she walked closer to the window and pressed the picture against the glass. The dragon's eyes followed her every movement, and Lila held the picture up for it to see, her voice trembling as she spoke. I have a picture of you and my mom in my wallet. Look. The dragon's gaze softened, its immense golden eyes narrowing slightly, almost as if it were studying the image in her hand. Lila's heart pounded in her chest, and for the first time in her life, she realized just how strange and wondrous the universe truly was. The dragon didn't look at her as if she were a threat or an enemy, but as if it understood her, as if it had seen her before. With a sudden flash of understanding, the dragon's massive wings unfurled, sending a gust of air through the observation deck as it slowly lifted away from the window, its ship following in tow. The creature's final look, however, was one of silent recognition, a fleeting moment that would stay with Lila forever. For the first time, Lila felt something stir deep inside her, a sense of awe, of connection, and of an endless possibility that stretched beyond her wildest imagination. Lila stood frozen in the observation deck, her heart racing as the dragon's massive form hovered in the vacuum of space, just beyond the glass window. Her small fingers still gripped the corner of her wallet, the picture of her mother and herself pressed tightly against the cool surface of the glass. The dragon's golden eyes, sharp and intelligent, locked onto the image for a moment longer, and in that instant, Lila felt a connection, a strange, inexplicable bond that pulsed through the air between them. It was as though the creature understood her, recognized her, in a way that defied logic. The dragon's eyes flickered from the picture to her face again, and for a moment, Lila could have sworn it nodded. Not with the deliberate motions of a human, but in the slow, measured way that only an ancient being could manage. It was as though it acknowledged something Lila could barely grasp, but it was there, undeniable. Her mind buzzed with questions, so many questions. What was this dragon doing here? Why had it stopped? What did it want from her? And what was that strange, comforting feeling that was growing in her chest? The dragon's ship, sleek and mysterious, lingered there for a few moments longer, its engine humming with a quiet power, almost as if it were communicating with Lila silently. Then, with a final glance, the dragon began to retreat. The graceful movement of its wings caused a soft vibration in the air, and Lila instinctively reached for the window, her eyes widening as the dragon's form grew smaller and smaller until it vanished into the depths of space. The ship followed it, drifting away like a shadow, slowly disappearing into the dark expanse of the universe. For several long moments, Lila stood there, staring at the spot where the dragon had been, her chest tight, her breath shallow. What had just happened? Had she imagined it? No, she couldn't have. The feeling, the sensation of its gaze upon her, was too real, too vivid. A voice interrupted her thoughts. It was Lieutenant Harris, the communications officer, and his voice crackled through the intercom, trying to reach her. "Lila, what's going on up there?" he asked, his voice filled with an edge of concern. "We received your message, but the visual feed was scrambled. Did you see something?" Lila quickly stepped away from the window and looked down at the small communicator in her hand. The image of the dragon had already faded, and the silence of space returned to its usual stillness, as if nothing out of the ordinary had occurred. Yet, she knew better. She had seen it with her own eyes. It wasn't a hallucination, or a dream, or a trick of the light. I saw something," she said, her voice small, unsure. "It was a dragon. A real one. It came right up to the ship. I even showed it a picture of my mom and me." There was a pause on the other end, followed by the sound of Lieutenant Harris clearing his throat. "A dragon, you say?" He sounded skeptical, as though he thought she might be joking or imagining things. "Lila, are you sure? There's no record of any unknown ships nearby. You know how sensitive our detection systems are. It must have been a glitch in the visual system." "I'm sure," Lila responded, a bit more forcefully than she intended. "It wasn't a glitch. It was real. I saw it, and it looked at the picture. It knew what I was holding." Another pause. Then, Harris's voice, softer this time, came through the comm. "All right, Lila, we'll check the systems and run diagnostics. But if there's something out there, we'll need to report it to the captain. Stay put, and don't approach any more windows until we figure this out." Lila bit her lip and nodded, even though she knew he couldn't see her. She wasn't about to approach any more windows, not when she was still processing what had just happened. She stood still, her mind racing, the image of the dragon etched into her mind. As she waited for Harris to confirm what she had seen, a new feeling began to settle in, something she hadn't felt before. It wasn't fear, but rather a sense of awe. The universe, vast and unfathomable, had just become far more real than she had ever imagined. The creatures, the beings that lived within it, beings like the dragon, were no longer just stories or figments of her imagination. They were out there, waiting to be discovered. Finally, Harris's voice returned, breaking her from her reverie. "We've confirmed there was a strange disturbance on our systems. Nothing definitive yet, but we'll keep scanning the area. For now, stay in your quarters until further notice, Lila." "Okay," Lila replied, her voice soft as she walked away from the observation deck. She wasn't sure what to do with the information she had, but one thing was clear: she wasn't going to forget this moment. Not ever. As Lila made her way back to her quarters, she couldn't help but wonder. Had she been chosen for something? Why had the dragon looked at her picture? Was this the beginning of something she was meant to be a part of, something far greater than she had ever imagined? That night, lying in her bunk, her thoughts swirled around the encounter. Was the dragon truly a creature of another world? Or was it something more, something ancient and powerful, a force beyond even the understanding of the Trackari or any alien species that had ever been in contact with humanity? Her eyes drifted closed, and she dreamed of vast, cosmic landscapes, dragons soaring through the stars, and beings of unimaginable wisdom and power watching from the edges of the universe. The world felt more connected than it ever had before, more alive with possibilities. Chapter 2. The Dragon's Return. The following day, the crew of the Perseverance was still processing the information about Lila's sighting. Lieutenant Harris had informed the captain and the rest of the crew, but there was still no definitive explanation for what Lila had seen. While the scientists aboard the ship continued to scan the area, there was little that they could do beyond speculation. The data didn't match anything they had encountered before. Lila, on the other hand, was restless. She couldn't sit still. The images of the dragon kept replaying in her mind, each moment of the encounter as vivid as the last. She couldn't understand why it had approached her or why it had paid attention to the picture. But one thing was for certain. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was something important about it all, something she wasn't seeing yet. The next few days passed in a blur of routine, with Lila trying her best to focus on the small things, listening to her mother talk about her work, reading her books, and spending time with the other children aboard the ship. Yet, no matter what she did, she couldn't push the thoughts of the dragon from her mind. It was as if a part of her had been marked, as if the dragon had recognized something in her. One evening, as the sun set and the stars began to shimmer outside, Lila found herself in the observation deck once again. This time, she wasn't alone. Her mother, Emma Turner, had joined her after a long day of work, her face tired but her eyes filled with warmth as she settled next to Lila by the window. "Hey, kiddo," Emma said, smiling softly. "I heard about your little adventure with the dragon." Lila looked up at her mom, startled. "You heard about that?" "Lieutenant Harris sent us a report," Emma replied with a small chuckle. "Apparently, you've made quite an impression. So what's this about a dragon?" Lila hesitated for a moment, then nodded, her voice filled with quiet certainty. "It was real, Mom. I saw it. It came right up to the ship and looked at me. It even looked at the picture of us." Emma raised an eyebrow, her expression a mix of concern and curiosity. "Lila, I know you're excited about space and all the amazing things we're going to find, but dash." "No, Mom," Lila interrupted, her voice firm. "It was real. I know it was. It was huge and powerful, and it looked at me like it knew me. And I showed it the picture, and I swear, it understood." Emma paused, studying her daughter's face, seeing the sincerity in her eyes. She had always known that Lila was special, but this was something else. Something she couldn't explain. "All right," Emma said, her voice soft. "I believe you. But for now, we need to be careful. If the dragon or whatever it was comes back, we need to make sure we understand what's happening. We can't afford to take unnecessary risks." Lila nodded, but her heart was already racing with excitement. This wasn't just an encounter, it was a sign. A sign that the universe was far more wondrous and mysterious than she had ever realized. And now, it seemed, her own journey was about to take an unexpected turn. As the ship continued its voyage through the stars, Lila felt something deep within her stir, a sense of purpose, a realization that whatever was out there, beyond the stars, was calling her, guiding her toward a destiny she couldn't yet comprehend. The dragon, the picture, the strange bond they shared, these were just the beginning. The universe, she knew, was waiting for her to discover it. The days following Lila's encounter with the dragon felt surreal, like she was living in the middle of a dream that refused to fade. The crew of the Perseverance, though technically aware of the strange occurrence, were still unsure of what to make of it. The scans had revealed nothing abnormal, and the ship's sensors hadn't picked up any trace of the dragon-like being Lila had described. Lieutenant Harris had sent in the report to the higher-ups, but they were hesitant to label the event as anything more than an anomaly, a glitch in the system, a random distortion in the starfield. It was frustrating for Lila, who knew what she had seen, but she had no way of proving it. Her mom, Emma, had listened to her with open skepticism, but a small part of Lila could tell her mother believed her. Emma had a way of being patient, of listening carefully without making judgments too quickly. But there was something about the way she held Lila's gaze when she spoke of the dragon that made Lila feel like her mom was considering something deeper. Despite all the explanations that adults tried to offer, Lila couldn't shake the feeling that she was at the center of something much larger than she could comprehend. There was a deep pull inside her, like an invisible thread tugging her forward, beckoning her to understand. The universe, in all its vastness, had opened its door just a crack, and she had peered through it. Whatever was on the other side, whatever the dragon had seen in her, she felt it calling. Lila spent the next few days exploring the ship as she had always done, though now with an increased sense of awareness. The crew members went about their daily routines, keeping busy with repairs, research, and communications with distant planets. Lila continued to visit the observation deck regularly, her eyes always searching the dark expanse of space for any sign of the dragon, hoping that the next time she saw it, she would be ready. She didn't know what she would do, but she knew she wanted answers. One evening, as the Perseverance sailed deeper into a newly mapped region of space, Lila sat at the window again, her chin resting on her hand. The stars outside twinkled in their usual serene pattern, a quiet, peaceful backdrop to the chaos that brewed inside her. Suddenly, her thoughts were interrupted by a soft beep from her communicator. It was a message from Emma. "Lila," her mother's voice crackled through the device. "Meet me in the main conference room. I have something I need to show you. It's important." Lila's curiosity piqued, and she wasted no time making her way down the hall. When she entered the conference room, Emma was standing near the large hollow table, her eyes fixed on the projection in front of her. The image was of a large, jagged asteroid field, something Lila had seen many times before on the ship's navigational charts. "Mom? What's going on?" Lila asked, standing next to her mother. Emma glanced at her, her expression serious. "Lila, I need you to pay close attention. This might be hard to believe, but based on the data we've gathered from the last few days, it appears the dragon or whatever it was you saw isn't the only one of its kind in the vicinity." Lila's heart skipped a beat. "You mean, there are more of them?" Emma nodded, her eyes scanning the data. "Yes, and that's not all. I've cross-referenced the images you described with some ancient galactic records I accessed from the Elnary archives. It looks like that creature you saw wasn't just any random being, it's part of a much older race known as the Drakari, ancient beings that predate most known civilizations. Their species is almost mythical, with few surviving records or even first-hand accounts." Lila blinked, trying to process the information. "Wait, so this is a real dragon? Not a myth?" "It seems that way," Emma confirmed. "The Drakari are said to have been incredibly powerful, beings capable of manipulating vast amounts of energy. They were thought to have disappeared eons ago, but there are some who believe that the last few of their kind still exist, hidden in the farthest reaches of the universe." Lila's mind was spinning. "But why would it come to us? Why me? I'm just a little girl." "That's what I'm trying to figure out," Emma said. "I think it's connected to you, Lila. The picture you showed the dragon, whatever bond it saw in you, it's more than just a coincidence. There's something here we don't understand yet." Lila bit her lip. She had felt that strange connection, that moment of recognition when the dragon looked at her. But now, hearing her mother's words, it felt even more overwhelming. She wasn't sure what to make of it, but deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that her encounter wasn't an accident. She had been chosen for something, and it was bigger than both of them. Just then, the ship's communications system beeped, pulling their attention away from the table. Lieutenant Harris's voice came over the speaker. "Captain Turner, you need to see this." Emma's expression darkened. "What is it, Lieutenant?" "We've detected another Drakari ship approaching. It's much larger this time. We're trying to get a visual, but it's moving fast, and it's coming directly toward us." Emma turned to Lila. "This is it. The dragon you saw, it's returning." Lila's heart raced. The dragon was coming back. She could feel it in her bones. There was no turning back now. Whatever was happening was about to unfold before them, and it wasn't going to be easy. "Mom, what should we do?" Lila asked, her voice trembling but filled with determination. "We'll prepare for whatever comes next," Emma said firmly, placing a hand on Lila's shoulder. "But you stay with me, Lila. We'll figure this out together." Chapter 3. Into the Heart of the Unknown. The ship's crew sprang into action, each person assigned to their station as they readied the Perseverance for what could be the most pivotal moment of their mission. The looming presence of the Drakari ship was undeniable, casting a shadow across the star-streaked void of space. It was unlike anything Lila had ever seen. The ship wasn't just a vessel. It was a living thing, its surface dark and iridescent, shimmering with strange energy patterns. As the ship approached, the sensors on the Perseverance detected fluctuating energy readings that were unlike anything in the known galaxy. Lila sat with her mother in the main conference room, both of them watching as the tension in the air thickened. Outside the observation window, the Drakari ship moved closer with an almost predatory grace, its immense size dwarfing the Perseverance. The humming of the ship's engines was almost imperceptible, a soft vibration under their feet, but it was enough to make the air feel heavy. "Mom, what do we do?" Lila asked again, her voice small but filled with curiosity. "What do they want with us?" Emma gave her a reassuring smile, though there was uncertainty in her eyes. "We don't know yet, Lila, but we're going to find out. I think this is bigger than just an encounter. Whatever the Drakari want, we need to be ready to listen, not fight. They've been watching us, waiting for something." Suddenly, the large viewing window lit up with an iridescent glow. Lila gasped as the image of the Drakari ship grew larger, and a massive shape appeared, hovering just outside their hull. It was the dragon from before, its glowing golden eyes locking with Lila's across the vast expanse of space. There was a silent communication between them, as if it had come not just for the crew, but for her. "Lila," Emma said softly, "you need to go to the airlock. The dragon has come for you. Lila's breath caught in her throat, but before she could respond, the ship's intercom crackled, and Harris's voice came through urgently. Captain Turner, the Drakari ship is initiating a docking sequence. We're preparing the airlock. We'll need to move quickly. Lila felt a strange pull in her chest as her mother nodded firmly. Prepare to receive the visitors. Lila, you're coming with me. As they made their way to the airlock, the crew stood in solemn silence. The massive metallic doors opened with a soft hiss, and there, standing before them, was the creature from Lila's dreams, the dragon, its immense form towering as it stepped into the docking bay. The air grew heavy with its presence, the silence thick and oppressive. The dragon lowered its head to meet Lila's gaze, and she could feel the weight of its ancient eyes, the power within them. This wasn't just a creature. It was something else, something far older, and it was looking at her with an intensity that made Lila feel like the whole universe was watching. Lila Turner. The dragon spoke, its voice deep and resonant, not through sound but through her mind, like a whisper in her consciousness. You have been chosen. Lila blinked in shock, not sure what to make of the words, but she felt something stirring inside her, a sense of purpose, of destiny. She wasn't just a little girl anymore. She was something far more significant. Chosen for what? She asked, her voice trembling. For the rebirth of a lost civilization, the dragon replied, its gaze unwavering. For the unification of the Drakari and all the forgotten species of the stars. The weight of those words fell on Lila like a blanket, and for the first time, she understood what the dragon had seen in her. She was part of something much bigger than herself, and her journey had only just begun. Lila could barely breathe. The Drakari dragon stood before her, massive and ancient, its golden eyes gleaming like suns in the dim light of the docking bay. The air around it shimmered with energy, as though the space itself bent under its presence. Every instinct told her to be afraid, but she wasn't. Somewhere deep inside, she felt a strange calmness and understanding that she was standing before something not just powerful, but wise. The words it had spoken still rang in her ears. You have been chosen. Emma, standing beside her, was frozen. The rest of the Perseverance crew held their breath as the dragon lowered its head slightly, as if inspecting Lila more closely. There was a flicker of recognition in its gaze, and a deep, resonant voice returned not in the air, but inside her mind. You carry the memory of our past, child. The past we lost. The past we have been searching for. Lila's fingers clenched the edges of her coat, her heart pounding. I don't understand, she whispered. Why me? I'm just a kid. The dragon's gaze softened, a slow, thoughtful blink. Because you are the daughter of Emma Turner. And because your mother carries something that was never meant to be lost. Lila's breath hitched. She looked up at her mother, who seemed just as stunned as she was. Mom. Emma swallowed hard, staring at the massive being before them. What? What do you mean? The dragon's golden eyes burned brighter. Show us the picture again, little one. Lila hesitated for only a moment before reaching into her pocket. She pulled out her small, worn wallet and carefully removed the picture she had shown the dragon before one of her and her mother, taken back on Earth before they left for this mission. With trembling fingers, she held it up. The dragon exhaled softly, a strange warmth passing over Lila as if she had just stepped into the sun. It studied the image, its tail curling slightly in what almost looked like deep thought. Not the girl, the dragon finally said. Her. It was looking at Emma. Emma's eyes widened. Me? The dragon's wings folded neatly against its back. You are Emma Turner, daughter of the one who was lost. The one who once walked among the Drakari. And you are proof that our past has not been erased. Silence fell over the docking bay. Lila turned to her mother, trying to piece together what was happening. Mom, what are they talking about? Emma looked pale, her mind clearly racing. She licked her lips, glancing between Lila and the massive dragon standing before them. She hesitated. My mother. Your grandmother, Lila. She was a scientist, too. She worked on deep space research before I was even born. But she disappeared. The dragon rumbled lowly, a sound that seemed to vibrate the very walls around them. She did not disappear. She was taken, and now we see her legacy before us. Lila's stomach twisted. Her grandmother? The grandmother she had never met? Was that why this dragon had recognized them? Emma took a deep breath, straightening her shoulders. What do you want from us? The dragon's eyes burned with something deep and unspoken. To finish what was started. Chapter 4. The Legacy of the Lost. The ship's crew gathered in tense silence as the Drakari ship docked completely, its massive metallic structure humming with an energy that seemed almost alive. The ancient being before them had made its intentions clear. This was not a coincidence. This was fate. Emma and Lila followed the dragon as it led them deeper into its vessel. The inside was unlike anything they had ever seen, walls pulsing with a soft bioluminescent glow, as if the ship itself were a living organism. Lila's wide eyes darted from one glowing panel to another, her fingers itching to reach out and touch them, but something in the air told her to wait. Finally, they arrived at what seemed to be a command center. Massive displays of unreadable symbols flickered in the air, and in the center of the room, a large, crystalline structure pulsed with a dim, rhythmic light. The dragon turned its gaze to Emma. Your mother, the one who was taken, left something behind. A fragment of knowledge. A key. Emma's breath caught. I don't understand. Lila, however, gasped. The picture. Emma looked at her daughter, confused. What? Lila's fingers clutched the photograph tightly. Mom, think about it. Why did the dragon react to this picture? What if it's not just the picture, but something about it? Emma's gaze flickered to the worn photograph in Lila's hands, and suddenly, she understood. Carefully, she took the picture and flipped it over. And there, on the back, was something she had never noticed before. Faintly imprinted in the paper was a sequence of strange, alien symbols. Symbols that matched the ones glowing all around them. The dragon nodded slowly. The message survives. Emma's hands trembled. My mother. She must have known something. Something they wanted hidden. But why in a picture? Why hide it like this? Because it was never meant to be found, the dragon rumbled. Until the time was right. Lila looked between the picture and the massive crystalline structure pulsing in the center of the room. She felt something in instinct, an understanding that hadn't been there before. Mom, she whispered, I think we're supposed to put it in there. Emma hesitated for only a second before stepping forward. She held the picture carefully, her breath shallow, before pressing it against the crystal. The moment it touched, the entire ship shuddered. The symbols around them flared to life, golden light illuminating every corner of the ship. Lila gasped as a holographic image appeared, a projection of a woman, Emma's mother, Lila's grandmother. My daughter, the voice spoke, echoing through the chamber. If you are seeing this, it means you have found the truth. Emma covered her mouth, her eyes welling with tears. You must protect the knowledge I have left behind, the message continued. The Drakari were betrayed. Their civilization was nearly wiped out by those who feared their power. But their wisdom, their legacy, it still exists. It has been hidden within the memories of their last surviving kin. You must help them, Emma. You must restore what was lost. The hologram flickered, then faded into silence. The dragon watched them carefully, waiting. Emma straightened her shoulders, wiping her eyes. She turned to Lila, a quiet determination in her face. We have to do this, Lila, she said softly. It's bigger than us. It always was. Lila nodded, her small hand slipping into her mother's. They had been chosen not just to witness history, but to change its course. The ship around them hummed with life, and the dragon lowered its massive head in silent acknowledgement. Then let us begin. Epilogue, a new journey begins. The Perseverance never returned to Earth. Instead, it became something greater, a vessel of knowledge, a ship that carried the last secrets of the Drakari across the stars. Lila, once a child filled with dreams, became their voice, a bridge between the past and the future. And as they disappeared into the depths of space, Lila knew one thing for certain. She had never been meant for an ordinary life. She had been born for the stars,